what happened last week. Just hit the got it button.
Got it.
Yep. Do what happened last week. Just hit the. Can you hear me?
Yeah, bro.
Yes.
Okay, I hit the mute button.
Those little triumphs. Well done, Jack.
Well, hello and welcome again to the Real Spin on Tennis. Tennis is #1 prime time tennis comedy hour. And we are really excited tonight. We got a great group. I'm pumped. And I'm so happy you Monday people are here to join us. God love it. Gotta love Monday, the Monday after the Australian Open. So first question I have is, what did we learn in this first slam of 23? Well, American men were the talk of the Open, with JJ and Brooksby and Korda and Shelton. And into the semis came Big Tommy Paul, but Novak the GOAT toppled them all. Women's ground strokes are now off the charts, but the serve still plagues them and smells like bad farts. You know, what can I say? I had to get a poop joke in there. I cannot pronounce the names of half of the players, but I see now why Serena was atop all the layers. And let's welcome tonight's guest. He's so smooth. Tennessee whiskey takes a couple of shots of him. Big time tennis influencer, new friend of mine, coach to many, nice player, and co-host of At the Net podcast, AJ Chabria.
What's up, Jack? Thanks for having us on.
It's a pleasure. His personality bubbles because he only sees doubles. Longtime friend, doubles expert, and statistician. He's worked with some of the best teams in the world, and some of the best coaches in the world, as well as helping Broudy Tennis launch a few years ago, and owner of the Tennis Tribe, Will Boucek. Hey, Will.
Hey, Jack. Hey, Jack. Thanks for having me. Excited.
You betcha.
Excited for the show.
You know, he's got classified documents, but they're all restraining orders. My co-host and my tennis prodigy and chief financial officer of Ted Jones World, Ted Jones.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Will and AJ. This is going to be a great episode. Everybody watching at home, just get back, maybe have some popcorn, put some butter on it, and enjoy yourself. It's going to be a great episode. I'm happy to be here, Jack. Thanks for having me.
Nice, nice. Well, you know, fellas, really, to me, the two stories of the AO this year, I mean, obviously, it's Novak. Novak's the story of the tournament, really. And on the women's side, you know, I got to tell you, I am, and we're going to do this in the C block. We're going to dedicate a lot of time to this, but there's something going on with the women's game. I got to tell you, the lack of Serena and a really dependable serve is something that's glaring to me. And then another thing that's glaring is a lot of people adopted her style of play, I think, and they're just hitting the piss out of the ball, right? But the problem is, in the men's game, you got the strength and the speed. So if you hit a winner, let's say on Rafa when he's healthy, or you hit a winner on Djokovic or Alcaraz, it's coming back. You have to hit 5 winners, right? And in the women's game now, they're just powdering the ball, right? I mean, Sabalenka is powdering the ball. You got to hand it to her. But when she misses her serve, she misses by 8 feet. And it's just, it looks like a prayer to me. It looks like every time she tosses, kind of like some of the, women Dementieva of yore, the old ladies. But, you always wondered when that toss went out of their hand, where's this serve going? I still have that same feeling. The only difference now is they're much, much bigger serves. So, but my issue with the women's game, and like I'm telling you, I watch more women's tennis than I ever have. The issue is that they powder a ball on the line, and that's the end of the point. The points are so short now. It used to be the men's points that were short, and everyone liked watching the women, right? Because they had longer rallies and it was more interesting. And I find that is the case now with the men's game. Tell me I'm wrong, AJ. Tell me I'm wrong. What do you think?
I do see a swing. I never liked I wasn't the guys, one of the guys who liked long rallies in the women's game. I guess I always liked the women's game for the women's game, maybe for the women. I think my first crush was on Yvonne Goolagong in the mid to late 70s.
Mine too.
Yeah, I always liked the
Mine
women's,
too.
but purely tennis wise, I always preferred not just, I think you quantified it as long rallies and short rallies, but also the variety in the men's game, unparalleled back then and still unparalleled. But if you like power and long rallies, women's tennis is it. There is no question. I wanted to respond to your the void that Serena has left. Number one, absolutely right. She's influenced so many people's games. I would give an assist to Venus as well. But in a good way, I don't know. At Serena's best, amazing mover. You do see that some on the women's side now. The best server, probably in the history of tennis, certainly women's tennis.
Certainly.
You're seeing more of that now. But I'm with you. The toss 3 feet to the right and predictably slice everything, it's not always the right thing to do. Sometimes it is. And Sabalenka did use it at the end with Rybakina in the final. And I saw that match twice, actually. I saw the men's match final twice also. I'm a little bit of a geek there. So I wanted to see, there's a lack of variety and all that, but Sabalenka used it because Rybakina's forehand out wide, maybe it wasn't as good. And of course, slicing into the body worked a bit too. So I see your point and I agree with it 100%, but I wanted to add, weirdly, it worked for Sabalenka, maybe because her second serve is ballsy, where almost everybody else doesn't have that. And her first serve is pinpointed where, maybe only Serena reached that level. So congrats to Sabalenka.
Oh, yeah. She was my pick. The only reason I didn't say her name last week, I said Jessie because I panicked. I choked on live TV because I couldn't remember how to pronounce her name. That's my problem.
Oh,
I keep pronouncing their
Jack,
friggin' name.
Well, she's
if
American,
I may say,
dude.
I think it was osmosis from that U.S. flag T-shirt you had on. You're thinking USA. You thought of Jessie.
Yeah, I guess so. I was waiting for, Henin. I can pronounce Henin. Williams, no problem. Now, Will, tell me, you're the doubles expert here. Did you find anything interesting or different this year at the AO doubles, men or women or mixed?
Nothing different, but something, I guess this was kind of different in a way. So on the men's side, you have these two Aussie wild cards who won it. And I went back and looked at the last several years to figure out how these non-seeded Aussie teams, kind of rolled with the crowd and kind of took that, the momentum from the crowd, and went all the way to the finals. And I have it pulled up here. So in 2020, Max Purcell and Seville made the finals. They ended up losing, I think, to Ram and Salisbury. 2022, which was just last year, Kyrgios and Kokkinakis were wild cards. They won the thing, which wasn't that surprising. Like, they weren't necessarily a wild card in the sense that Kubler and Hijikata were this year, because everybody knew who Kyrgios was. Most people who knew who Kokkinakis was. Right. But and then also last year, another unseeded team was in the finals, Ebden Purcell. And then this year, Seville and Bolt beat number 4 seeds Mekta Cimpovic, and then Kubler and Hijikata won the thing. And most people had never heard of either of their names before the tournament. So at least on the men's side, the crowd seems to have this massive effect on the results of the tournament. For doubles. Australia loves doubles. They always have a big crowd for their all Aussie pairings. And the men's side, it's shown itself the last several years. As far as the women's side, it was just more of the same. The Czechs are just better than everyone. And it's not very close. So it's probably too early to be talking about a calendar Grand Slam, but for them, I don't feel like that's true. They've won 4 straight majors. They haven't lost since the US Open in 2021. So they're just so dominant right now. It's ridiculous.
Well, do you do like some kind of, go ahead, JJ.
Oh, I was just going to say to piggyback on what Will said, not only they've won 4 slams on the trot, they won in your hometown, Will, Fort Worth WTA finals. Not a lot of tactical or even technical errors, and they won it very, very close in the final. But absolutely right, and that speaks to their dominance on really any court.
Well, so they lost in the finals in Fort Worth. It was 12-10 in the third. Yeah. It was 12-10.
He won't be invited back. He won't be invited back.
No. It's good. I made the same mistake. So this is the thing, though. This is the thing about the Grand Slams with doubles. You don't see this in singles, but in Grand Slams, you're playing with ad. Whereas even the WTA finals, it's no ad. It's a deciding point and it's a 10-pointer for the third. So people can beat them in that format because you get a couple of deciding points. You get them to a third and get a couple lucky points and you can beat them. But at the Grand Slams, you're playing full 2 out of 3 with ad scoring. Oh. And it's just so difficult to beat them in that format. And they did, they had the lead, I think 7-2 or something in that 10-point breaker in Fort Worth and ended up losing it. I think it was 12-10. It was a crazy match, but yeah, they've been totally dominant.
Let me ask you something. How many hours a week do you spend looking in the mirror, saying all those names so they just roll off your tongue like that? Because you said them right now, and just for the life of me, I can't remember what you just said.
So I don't even know if I'm pronouncing them correctly. The nice thing is the WTA website, if you pull up the player profile, most players have recorded their voice. So you can click on this little microphone next to their name and listen to it. So some people say Siniakova, some people say Siniakova, some people say Krejcikova, some people say Krejcikova. I don't know. I do the best I can.
All right. Yeah, Teddy, you're a New York comedian who's won a couple of junior tournaments. What's your take? What's your take on this year's AO? What did you notice the most? What matches did you like?
You know what? I think that the guys, Jack, I'm going to have to kind of disagree with you on the shorter rallies on the guy side. I think like deeper into the tournament when we were talking about like 4th round, I just saw these guys were bashing. And
no. I said shorter rallies on the women's side. It's the men that have the long rallies.
There you go.
It's the men.
I bite my tongue, bro. I bite my tongue. Excuse me. But
AJ, I can't believe I'm thinning the herd here.
See,
go ahead.
Both of us are not invited back. It's just Will and Jack now.
Seeing the men though, they were just like they're playing on a different level. And I think to go back to women's tennis, Ashley Barty, I think, was really going to take over the game, man. Like it was her and Iga. And I really think that like if Ashley Barty were to have played like another 5 or 6 years, she would easily have won another 5 or 6 Grand Slams. And I feel like she was the all-around player that Serena was going to leave the game to, so it really did leave a hole. And you think about men's tennis is so dominant. It's really going to be interesting when Djokovic leaves. Like, who is going to fill his shoes? Who's going to be the number 1 American? Is it Tommy Paul? Is it Taylor Fritz? Is a guy like Riley Opelka going to start? Are those kids going to be top 10? Like, it's interesting because the game is really, as soon as Serena left, and now we've had the big 3 are going to leave within like the next, 18 to 24 months. It'll be interesting to see who's in the top 5 over the next 18, 24 months on both sides.
Yeah, I think you're right about Barty. I could say the same about Henin. I don't think Serena would have won as many slams as she did if Henin had stayed in the game. She was only 26 when she left. So she had at least 4 good years left in her. And she could pretty much, when she was playing well, she could beat both Williams sisters, I thought, especially on clay, especially at the French. But you're right about Barty, and I wasn't thinking about that, but she did leave a big hole as well as Serena. You're absolutely right. And yeah, it's the men that have the long points. And that's what I was saying earlier.
Bro, I misspoke, bro. I smoked a couple too many you-know-whats earlier. That's all right to say. I apologize. Won't happen again.
Yeah. Well, you can imagine it then. They were great matches,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I guess that's my issue is the women hit such a big ball now. They're just going for broke. And so does Alcaraz, and so do a lot of the men, right? And Shelton, he was just walloping that inside out forehand. But it doesn't phase a guy like Djokovic or Nadal. Most of these guys can move. That's the issue I have on the women's side. They're hitting that big ball too, but that's the end of the point. And when they hit that winner, that one winner, the point's over. You're not seeing the great gets. And the other thing that really gets to me, and I watched a lot of women's tennis, my God, their drop shots are like, it's like their hands are ice cold.
Well,
ice cold.
But I think that realistically, drop shots
and the lobs too. The lobs too. Like they were
okay, but drop shots were seen as a cheap shot up until like 8 years ago, and then Federer even said that, and then he started implementing it. So I think we got to give the women on tour a few more years to adapt to the drop shots, because the guys are just starting to get really good at it too. Like you'll see Alcaraz hit really good drop shots, Djokovic too as well, but it's a new shot. And I think we're going to see the underhand serve more too.
Ons Jabeur is pretty good at them.
Yeah, exactly.
Ons Jabeur is pretty good at the drop shots on the women's side.
And Maria Sakkari, I think Sakkari and Jabeur are exceptional, and everybody else is unexceptional at drops. At continental grip skills in general, Jack, when you said drop shots, it's also, think about slice lobs and drops and fade little volleys. They're ailing on those, and you can boil all that down, distill it to continental grip skills. Not quite the level of the guys.
Yeah, you're right. Probably because they're going for these wide to the right tosses instead of just hitting a nice kick serve, that goes deep on the service line. Yeah, well, that's what I thought this year. Like I said, I never ever know on the women's side who's going to win ever. Not until the last point. With the men, you saw it, AJ. You saw my text. You guys saw my Facebook post the day before. I said, I'll take Novak in 3. Oh, no, 4 or 5 set. I'm like, I'll take him in 3. He ain't dropping a set to this guy. And, so I think that's definitely, I think that's what's happening right now, personally. Well, let's move on. Time for the B block, which is, do you know Jack about tennis? Don't tell me something I just saw with my eyes. Give me the whats and the wheres and the whys. And don't scream as if you are in total shock. He missed that one wide. No shit, Sherlock.
I thought it was so out here.
Not bad, huh? And though I am old and often quite slow, I'm begging you, please tell me something I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. You guys know what I'm talking about. AJ, what am I talking about? Let me start with you, Will. What am I talking about here?
It sounds like, knowing you're talking about announcers, probably.
I am. I'm talking about commentators. They just they tell you what you just saw. He hit that backhand down the line. I'm like, duh. It's just, come on, man. And, like the biggest one for me, you guys, was Andy Murray. I was stoked to see him back. He looks great. And, those groundies are so much fun to watch. He finds parts of the court that aren't even in the court. He's incredible. But then he in the last match, he dumped 3 forehands in a row in the middle of the net, all going cross court. Fuck, what a learning moment. What a learning moment it could have been. But instead, they blow it off and they just blather. I don't even know what they're talking about. They just keep talking, but they never say, gee, he's been playing great. What happened on those 3 forehand? And I mean 3 in a row. 3 points in a row, he dumped 3 forehands in the bottom of the net. And we know he faced the net too early. He pulled his left hand out and faced the net and put too much top on it, But you could have said something. And that's my issue, Will, is they really don't try to even teach at all. They don't try to help the average Joe Blow 4.0 player play a better game. Maybe it's different in the Dubs. I don't know.
Yeah, I watched a lot of the so even for the singles matches, I think they have like the standard ESPN coverage with all the big names, and then they have like an ESPN Plus announcers that are typically not from the US. I think they were either from Australia or they sound like from Australia. Yeah, or maybe British accents or something. But I think the ESPN Plus announcers overall for me were a little bit better. Like they gave me a little bit more strategy insights, a little bit more kind of taking some of their own experience if it was a former player and things like that. The big issue I have a lot of the time with announcers is rather than talk about like either a technical or a strategic adjustment that the player should have made, and like that's why they won the point, they just attribute everything to nerves and pressure. And I get that that's a big part of the game, but not every point is lost because they couldn't handle the pressure. It might be they went cross court when they should have gone down the line, or they should have hit the ball behind them instead of, give them a running forehand on the passing shot or whatever it might have been. And they don't pinpoint some of those adjustments enough for me, but everybody's different. I mean, it depends on your style and what you like to listen to.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because you're right. I mean, all I ever hear, even out of Blake, who's a very bright guy, I know the guy's very bright. So-and-so, I can't remember who he'll hit the, middle of the net on a backhand passing shot, and he'll just go, wow. That's it. That's literally what he said. Wow. And then you hear Pam Shriver when she's talking, man, it's like she's waiting. Come on, give me a fist pump so I can say it. And then she goes, oh yeah, there's a fist pump. Boy, there's the energy now. And I'm like, shut up. It's so awful. I mean, who cares about a fist pump? I can see the fist pump, but they talk, you're right. They talk in nebulous terms like energy, fist pumps, but nothing that we can't see.
The dropper.
Teddy.
The dropper.
Yeah, the dropper. Yeah. So Teddy, give me your view on this.
Bro, not to talk shit on my boy Patrick McEnroe. I think he actually does a good job in the booth. But I do think, I've spoken about this in the past. We have to get more players in the booth who have had a bright personality on court in the past. Like somebody, obviously, like an Andre Agassi would be great. We got to get Andy Roddick back in the booth. I think just talking from a lot of experience is also great. While Will was saying you don't want to always talk about the pressure and the nerves, I think that sometimes it's appropriate if you have former players in the booth talking about, the pressure there. But I do think that you need a high quality world-class tennis coach who is a very technical type person. You talk about a guy like Vic Braden. Yeah, he had, good energy, but I think if you had a really technical base type instructor in the booth, like maybe you had, like you see in football or you see in basketball, they're always talking about strategy and they're always talking about like how bodies are moving. I just think we need somebody who is more focused on the mechanics of the game. We've never really seen that.
Yeah, and even the banter, you don't see the banter that you see on TBS with Charles Barkley or you used to see with Don Madden. There used to be a really good warm feeling. The tennis guys are so dry, and the women, they're so dry that I literally have to mute them every time, turn on Zeppelin or The Dead or something, It's just a little too boring. And
Jack, you need to start watching doubles. A lot of the doubles matches don't have announcers, even if you want them.
Really? Is that true? Well, see, I don't get much doubles on ESPN.
It's totally quiet, and all you can hear is the ball and the chair umpire.
That's all you need, right?
I know Will said ESPN Plus, best $100 I've spent. Half the time it's understated commentary. The other half it's no commentary. And for me, this is better than the mute button because if I mute it, I can't hear the crowd and the ball. So ESPN
you can't hear the
Plus
sound of the ball, right? That's a big thing,
which I love.
Yeah. But
you were talking about.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please. No, if you're asking for my take on commentators, I feel like commentators are the opposite of the hip hop community. They are so afraid of the N word, and I'm talking about nuance. There is very little nuance. It's like you said, it's very, very highly obvious. I feel like I want to regurgitate a 90s expression. Oh, thank you, Captain Obvious. I probably say that almost as many times. I think, Jack, you told Pam Shriver, you just said, shut up. You've got to be I don't know. We're in six figures now of how many people have said that about Pam Shriver. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, well, I always say the same thing. I promoted the Avon Tennis Tour when I was about 24 years old. And it's when I told you, Will, I went out to Fort Worth and Dallas and that area and met Willie Nelson, gave him tickets to the finals to see, he went to see Chrissy and Martina, and he gave me tickets to his concert. And
that's all he gave you, bro. That's all Willie Nelson gave you, really?
Yeah, we burned a couple of fatties,
right,
but other than that,
all right,
but Pam, she never had the game to describe what's going on today. I mean, even if you had Borg try to describe today's game, or our friend Johan, who'll be visiting us here in about 10 minutes, he's going to come in and say hi to us all. Johan's got a real great way about him. He's funny. He tells it like it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, and he's from South Africa. He'd probably toss around that N-word for you. Like Teddy. Teddy, you my nuance, man. You my nuance.
Nuance, please. Hey, I wanted to also comment on Teddy's observation.
Flip that up, dude. Send it to Omar.
Sorry. Yet again, I'm canceled. But, when Teddy said technical coach and former player who has a feel for it, I also think some tennis journalists and podcasters, I'll be the first to say, I'm a guy who went to school and I have a broadcast degree, and sports broadcasting sucks. Like, they all have that voice. They all pretend to be excited about stuff they don't really know about. So I don't want the trained broadcaster. I want what Teddy asked for. And if I may add, sometimes it's the damn focus groups that are flawed. Sometimes it's the producers, because we want, clearly, this whole panel, also Roscoe and Eagleton and Johan a week or two ago, you want to give the people what they want and what they need. And my sense is, when I want to hit the mute button, is they're giving the producers what they think producers want, what they think the people want. And clearly it's not what they want. Now, Teddy, if I can disagree a little bit, if a coach goes too technical, you'll lose the casual fan, but you'll gain so many real fans. And if you go too tactical, or like I think Will said, just it's all mental and it was nerves. That's one of those narratives that people tend to accept. We see it as rather obvious and kind of lazy if they just go to the mental and the momentum and the energy and the fist pump all the time.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think you can have both. You usually have two people in the booth, maybe like that third person down there on like the person I'd say, like the Darren Cahill, you'd want like the guy who's on court side to talk about the technical stuff. Like, oh, why did he miss that forehand? Why did Murray just miss 3 forehands in the net? Like, he's pulling across. It's very clear down here. You can see it.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Hey, it looks like a tennis ball. It looks like a tennis ball is joining us here.
Oh, the Slazenger Wimbledon. Oh, there
he is. Speak of the devil. There he is.
What's up, boys? I'm in a different hotel. I don't know if I can find a better place, but
different hotel every night, man.
Hey, Johan, that's okay. You got a Twilight Zone thing going there. It's kind of cool. Yeah.
Let me get some. I don't want to if I should show my Grand Canyon face, but I'm trying to find the lights here. Don't know. Hey guys,
a different hotel every night, huh?
Just about. No, I was in Orlando, and now I'm in Rome, Georgia. Did you ever see this facility here?
Oh, it's amazing. Berry College.
Oh my God. I mean, 51 tennis courts, outdoors, all hard courts. They got 6 indoor courts, brand new. I mean, I'm talking state of the art.
No. And good life.
It's funny. Rome has always been a kind of a big tennis town. I was there back in 78, 79, and I did a clinic in Rome, Georgia, and it was a tiny little town. I'm sure it's a lot bigger now, but they've always been into tennis there.
Well, they built a Fairfield by Marriott hotel literally on the side of the tennis court, so you can walk from it to play tournaments. I mean, it's just it's an unbelievable facility. I'm blown away. I mean, it's half the size of the National Training Center in Orlando. It's just incredible.
So when they say that Rome wasn't built in a day, is that what they were referring to?
I guess so.
Oh.
Hey, Johan, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate that. A nice little
Well,
a nice little cameo.
I don't have many real friends, so I'll just do e-friends. Okay, so that's
That's right.
Same, bro. Same.
Hey, listen, we'll go around the horn real quick because we're talking about AO. We're talking about everything from the state of play on both sides and doubles to the state of commentary, which I was just ripping on. I was actually going to say one more thing, Johan. I'm glad you tuned in and see what you think of this. My feeling is if you had someone that actually was deep into the game and not just an ex-tennis player, period, but really deep into the game, someone who's still coaching, someone who's coaching more than just top players, someone who's coaching a lot of different players. Like Johan, I know you coach some top players and I know you coach regular folks too, just like I do. I was thinking if you had someone like that, they could make the programming more intelligent. Right now, I've been mentioning a lot the camera angles. And, I have noticed lately since the Netflix series, they're doing these weird camera angles, from behind a beer or some weird thing or from a bathroom. They're trying. But, if they had a brain and they had a coach who really knew what they're talking about, like this thing when Andy Murray missed those 3 easy forehands in the bottom of the net. If you had a camera directly above him, which they've never done because they're not bright enough, if you had a camera directly above Murray, you would have seen how early he was and how his left arm pulled him out of the stroke and why he dumped those in the middle of the net. You could have said, look at this, look at the lines coming off of his body if it was an above angle, but they don't have anyone even remotely intuitive enough to understand that would be a good angle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the only angles you ever see is, the person serving, they're like this on the face. And then as soon as the serve goes, as soon as the toss goes, they go 1.5 miles back. And then, so they really don't get the right angles to get into the sport. You know what I mean? Yeah. People just don't get into it. Anyway, I'll leave you with that one.
Yeah, I think, tennis, obviously, if you look at golf, how unbelievably technical they are about their all of the things and how they go about the swing weights and all that stuff. I mean, tennis is really an archaic state compared to golf. But be that as it may, maybe I was drunk. I don't know what it was, but I was thinking
probably
if I had an indoor tennis facility, what would I do with that one training court? What would I put in there, And I'm thinking, okay, so we can put ball machines and you get an AI guy that is super smart with technology and ball machine and technology, and then mimic all of these different patterns that like a Federer plays and Nadal plays, and the ball machines will basically feed a ball from a direction where the person runs on the other side and plays against these ball machines that look like there could be some AI screens in the back that looks like that's actually the player playing, And then I'm thinking, well, what if we put an indoor, if it's a roof, you put a camera there which would absolutely measure where Federer tosses his first serve versus his second serve and what small differences there are in his wrist pronation to try and smack the ball down the tee, whether it's a body serve or a little 89 mile an hour dive bomber out to the right side on the do side. I was thinking all these things and I think, well, maybe I'm starting to think a little bit like Vic Braden did, with all of these things that he did 30 years ago, 40 years ago. He was way ahead of his time. And, I just think that those types of things would be very helpful because if you can say to a player on the other side, say you have the court, it's just one half a court as a training court where the guy is just running and mimicking playing Murray or playing Nadal or playing Federer or playing Djoko or playing a Wawrinka backhand or something like that. It'd be very helpful for people to kind of get those feedbacks and maybe you can these things you get for $10 for 10 minutes you can go in and just watch how Federer hits his forehand cross court and stuff like that. I think it would be unbelievably good to have those kind of technologies into tennis.
They had a ball machine, but I think they ran out of money. It was called Sam. It was right around 2000, 2001. And they did a demo. They did a demo at my club. Yeah. It served and everything. And you could literally put in a match from 1996 and it would play the exact points from that match from that player. So you would move around. It was incredible. It was called Sam, but I think they ran out of money and it never actually happened.
Maybe I should call my friend Elon and say, look, Sam is looking for help or something.
Yo, let me get it. Yeah, let me get a Tesla while you're at it, bro.
You want the plane or you want to just
I want the SUV, man. Murdered out SUV. Holy.
Teddy, have you got any questions for the great one here?
I do, Johan. So I wanted to kind of talk to you about what, I guess, two things. It could be interrelated. What was the best match you ever played, and who was the best player you've ever played?
People ask me those point blank, black and white questions. And what is your best match?
No, Teddy's such an asshole. Sorry.
God, fucking guy. He puts me on a spot. No, I'll tell you what. Obviously, people, generic answer is, when you win your first Grand Slam. Okay. But it wasn't my best match I ever played. I think my best match I ever played indoors was against John McEnroe in the Cow Palace in San Francisco, and I beat him 7-6, 6-1. I destroyed the guy. He was number one in the world. And then I came back the next year, and just to make sure that people think that I'm not such a shitty player, I beat him again. And so those, I would say, beating the number one player in the world is always a real treat, because especially if it's McEnroe, because he's so mouthy. And he's still a friend. We laugh at each other. He got me a bunch of times, but I got him pretty good. I beat him in the finals of the U.S. National Indoor Championships after I won my second Australian Open. I beat him 6-4 in the third on national television, and everybody said, Kriek is not good enough to play with those guys. And then I beat him. I said, well, no, shut up,
Yeah.
like in your face. But honestly, I think probably the most emotional match I ever played was against a less heralded tennis player by the name of Colin Dowdeswell, who was from Zimbabwe. And they called him the Albatross. He would show up with like two different shoes, like a Lacoste and an Adidas sock. And then he had like a crumpled Fred Perry shirt that he walks on there. And it was too small. So the shoulders were all up, like a cigarette guy. And then he would take out Vilas. He'd take out all the top players in South Africa, because the South African Open was played on very high altitude, 5,600 feet. So he would just come and chip and charge everybody like an Anacone did, sort of, and he just couldn't miss volleys. The guy they called him the Albatross. He would just hang over the net. And so I played him, and I was down 5-2 in the fifth. I was so lucky. I hit a half volley sort of behind me. He was coming in on a second serve, chip and charge. I was coming in. I said, you're not going to beat me to the net. And he sort of did. And then I hit a volley behind my back and dribbled over the net right in front of him. And he couldn't get to it. On a break point, I think I was down 1-4 or something. 5-1. He would serve and win the match. And I came back and beat him 7-5 in the fifth. But I mean, it was in front of my dad. It was in front of my family. It was in front of my dad was in a wheelchair. He couldn't fly to see me everywhere. And so that was an extremely emotional match. And I won the South African Open for the first time. And I was sort of a political figure. I was a South African Afrikaner, which became an American. And so I won it in 83. And I was so grateful that I could do that. So I gave my dad my entire check for the farm, to save the family farm in a way. So it was a very emotional match. It wasn't against the number one player in the world, but it was an unbelievably hard fought match, and I got through. So, it was, so to answer your question, that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah.
And then
Hey, Will,
also the best player you played against, was it Borg?
I would say the most mentally, a guy that would put you a lobster in a pot and don't let you out. That was him.
Borg, huh?
And he still tells me that I'm his best friend after 5 o'clock when he's had 17 balls.
That's like me and you, buddy.
That's right. That's right. Hey, Will, how about you? You got any, maybe doubles questions? I don't know.
Yeah, let's do a doubles question. So it looks like, according to Wikipedia, you reached number 12 in the world in doubles. Who's the most difficult?
I didn't have the equipment to get to single digits, so I'm sorry.
All right. Well, 12 in the world's probably good enough. A little bit higher than I think any of us have ever made it.
For yourself, bro.
Who's the best doubles player or team you ever played against? Or not best, but most difficult, so most challenging opponent you've ever played against. It can be a player or a team. And then talk about why you had so much difficulty against them.
Yeah, when I played doubles back in the day, I mean, obviously we used doubles as practice play. I mean, McEnroe played, Fleming played, all of us played. Connors even played, and he was known to be a doubles player. He played with crazy guys like Nastasi and guys like that, and it was basically a show. But so, I started to play with Fritz Buning, but he was such a wild man next to me. Like I would duck because he'd swing wildly at the net and like would literally take the head off the top of the net covers and stuff. I was like, this guy's going to get me killed. So I played with Fritz and we did some really great things. We won some crazy matches with him. Fritz was he was a hoot to play with. He's from Short Hills.
He's a nice guy, really nice guy.
He's from Short Hills, New Jersey, and he had a shorter fuse. And so then I played with the different guys, and then I was like a pickup guy, like I was the seated guy in a locker room in singles that never had a decent partner. And then I played with Tracy Delott, and we beat McEnroe Fleming twice in Forest Hills, and we beat him we beat him in Vegas, I think, one year. We got to the finals there and lost. But I played with Tracy Delott. His thighs were bigger than my torso. He's from Louisiana. He was from Baton Rouge. He now lives in Dallas, Texas. I see him all the time. He's a good guy. And then I played with Kelly Everton from New Zealand. So I played with these like scrappy guys that had weird shit going on with them, either mental problems or guys that looked like they should be in the WWF. And then I played with Kelly Everton, who had one lung because he got in a car crash and I had to take a lung out. And so, he was a fantastic player. So one time we played with him and we started doing well. We won a couple of tournaments and we were like, had a good jump on the doubles. And we said, what, let's really try to make the Masters doubles. And we did. We ended up in London at I think we played in the Royal Albert Hall. We made it to the Masters. And unfortunately he went to party too much, so I had to play singles while we were playing doubles, and that didn't last long.
It sounds like a common theme there, Johan.
Yeah, so I played with the downtrodden and the forgotten. And so
who was the toughest though? You still have who's the toughest team?
So I played against Flack Seguso a couple of times, and they thumped me with whoever I played. They were number one in the world. And here's an interesting story. So one time we're playing in Chicago. It was like a big tournament. It was like a Masters 500 or something. And I had nobody to play with. So I said, Yannick Noah, I'm sitting in a locker room. Yannick, you want to play doubles this year? Never played with him before. He's obviously a stellar guy. He's an unbelievable athlete. He could jump over my head and still laugh at me while I'm looking up. And so I played with Yannick that year, and we got to the finals. So I lost in the semifinals to McEnroe, and then he had to play Connors in the finals and singles. Well, 11 o'clock at night on Saturday night, the director of tennis called me in a huff. He says, Johan, you won't believe this. He goes, Connors has strep throat. He can't breathe. He's like on the way to the hospital. There's no way he can play tomorrow. And so McEnroe has a walkover. And he goes, listen, I got 2.5 hours of television. I don't know how I'm going to fill it. Do you guys mind playing a best of 5 set doubles? Because you've never played with Yannick. You're playing the number one doubles team in the world who's won everything. And I said, sure. He says, listen, I'll make it sweeter. I'll throw a few bucks in there for you guys to play extra 5. So, there's a little bit of Jew in me. So I just said, okay,
oh, nice. And
all the hate
we're
mail
canceled.
Coming your way, Jack. All the hate mail is coming to you. And put your 6-shooters on so you match your hat. And
well, you missed it because Teddy. AJ said the N-word before, so you missed it.
I'm glad. I'm not going there. Anyway, so I'm playing with Yannick in the finals, and we're playing best of 5. The first 2 sets we get completely schooled. It was like 6-1, 6-2. I got to look at the stats for that year, and somehow we started to gel, me and Yannick. And, he's a good server. He's an athletic guy. And we started playing some serious ball. We're getting into the 5th set. And we played unbelievable tennis. I mean, I hit, I think on match point, Flack hit a bomb down the middle. And I sort of laid Boris Becker at sort of cross-court angle into the alley off the deuce side. I normally play the ad side. So the first time in my life I'm playing deuce side.
Oh, my God.
This doesn't feel too good. I got to kind of aim that way, And I think I kind of misjudged the ball. I was a bit late. So I hit an absolute BB gun right past Flack. And, I mean, he was pissed. So yeah.
He probably knew you were late.
Yeah, I was late, but I just acted like it was meant to be.
Yeah, of course. Pee Wee Herman style.
calmly like yawned.
That's what
and
you're
walked
supposed
up
to
and
do.
shook hands.
Yeah.
So I mean, those guys were good. I mean, they were really a great team, and I mean, that was one of my best doubles win, was that one.
Okay, great. Hey, AJ, how about you? We missed out on you, buddy. You got any?
All right. I will have a question, and hopefully it's controversial enough for Johan to use his full palate. But I do want to say, when Teddy asked you about one of your greatest wins, can I mention you once beat Guillermo Vilas on clay at the French Open? What? How did that happen? You're amazing.
You know, I don't want to talk about that. It was so painful a match to win. It's like winning the battle and lost the war. I literally had to go home. I pulled out of Queens, I pulled out of Wimbledon, and I went home for 6 weeks to recover.
Oh my God!
Wow, yeah, Vilas, he didn't miss. He didn't miss.
It was at least 4 hours, 5 hours.
It was nearly 5 hours, 4 sets. So thank God I just 3-6, 7-6, 7-6, 7-6. And it was a hot day that day in Paris. And literally, there was a Thursday, and then we played Saturday for semis, right? So Friday, nobody knew where I was. I was sleeping. I was in bed. I couldn't move. I had to Saturday morning, they injected my shoulder, my elbow, and my wrist, and nobody knew that I was like an invalid. I was wheelchair bound.
Wow.
I didn't have the juice to come recover. And but I had some 5-set matches. I had some 5-set matches before I got to that quarterfinal match. And then that was honestly one of my finest mental wins, I would say, in clay. I was not known for a clay court specialist, but I played Vilas. He was this machine like a Nadal, and I beat him. And I was shocked.
I remember that. I remember back in the mid 70s, it was basically every Sunday was the Guillermo Vilas show. I mean, every Sunday he was in the finals.
I mean, the guy it was insane what he did.
Yeah. I remember wanting to tune in. I think a senior in high school. This was 86. Is that right, Johan?
86. Yeah.
I remember so badly wanting to see it and then having to read about it the next morning. So hats off to you for that win. My question, Johan, do you want if you had come through that match and if you had that black bag that Novak sometimes reaches for and has the magic potion, would you have beaten Lendl 2 days later? Would you have played Queens and Wimbledon? If you had I'm joking about the bag full of magic potion, which when it goes on the market, I'm getting a 12-pack of that. There's no question. I want that shit.
You're going to be standing in line behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll see you online. But this is the part that could get controversial. Novak was ridiculed, of course, last year, horrible troubles, COVID tyranny, and he's back. Novak had something like 17 treatments a day on an 18-hour cycle and didn't hit a ball between matches at the Auss Open this year. What do you think he's getting? And can you imagine if you had it back in your day?
Wow. Yeah, I have my doubts that these guys can play these amazing 5-hour matches and bounce back like spring chickens the next day. I mean, in our day, we were just wrecks. I mean, in our day, I look in the locker room and see the guys that are in the semis or quarters or finals of the Grand Slams. And I mean, it's just like blisters you cannot imagine. And how these trainers put these guys together, and then everybody's chipper on a center court. It's just amazing how your brain can overcome these injuries, really, that makes you like you can almost not run. I mean, but I just think that the science, follow the signs. Is that what Dr. Fauci said?
Yeah.
Follow the signs.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we'll follow the freaking science, all right.
Yeah, I'll follow
your science and nobody else's.
Exactly.
But I just don't know. I just think that everything today is so different from when we played. I mean, it's so scientific now how the guys go about. I mean, I'm looking at these girls that I'm here in Rome, Georgia right now for this ITF tournament. And it's amazing how they are going about getting themselves ready. It's a completely different world. And I don't have evidence of it. I don't have evidence of echinacea and nutmeg. I don't. But I suspect it's got to be some serious nutmeg.
Well, Eagleton was telling me about Red Joe. So I bought some today. You heard of Red Joe, man, from South Africa?
Underwear?
No, it's from South Africa. It's some kind of root.
I think it's
or something.
Rooibos tea.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
Hey,
no, I drink rooibos all the time. It's a great tea. It's a South African herbal tea. It's very healthy.
That's right.
Yeah, it's got no caffeine and no artificial everything. It's a great tea to have.
Hey, Johan, it was really a pleasure. We really appreciate you dropping by, and hopefully we'll talk to you from another hotel some other time.
I'm waiting for this thing to go completely X-rated, and then I'll jump back on. So I'm waiting. For
Good. You'll be welcome.
I'm waiting for you guys to really spice this thing up. Forget the nutmeg, okay? It's got to be tequila or something. I mean, you got to have 4 shots of tequila before we go and ask questions.
Will this
Get
work?
the real answers.
Can I have a beer right now, or what?
What is it?
Hey, Jack, while
That's I'm cheering. I'm cheering you right now. This is my beer here. Nice Dos
cheers,
Equis.
boys. Hey, while the most interesting man in the world has his Dos Equis, I want part B of my question. Johan, this is not X-rated, but Stefano Vukov, the Croatian guy who coached Rybakina, caught a lot of flack for raising his voice and being critical of Rybakina. Pam Shriver jumped right on it, and she's now in a Twitter beef with Dmitry Tursunov and some others. What's your take on how people are coached and possible abuses? Have you gotten wind of this Twitter beef?
Look, I'm a purist in a sense. I hate pickleball. Let people go and build their own freaking courts. Don't come and take one more tennis court away because I'm going to have a freaking fit. Okay, so
I hear you.
Get that out of the way. Secondly, this thing about coaching in tennis is the most absurd rule that you can imagine.
Yep.
Please, people, if I say to my daughter, come on, you can do it, that's okay. But if I say, move your feet, hey, you coaching. What the hell? I mean, this is like Fauciism and Marxism and whatever the hell else we want to call isms in there. I think it's the stupidest rule. I think you should be able to coach. Okay, so next gen or whatever. I mean, if the guy walks by, you coach, you tell this is a business, it's entertainment. Well, we got to sit there like, Mother Teresa. And why don't we just put like a tape, the tape guy that was on American Idol or whatever, Why don't we just put the freaking tape on people? It's the stupidest rule ever. I can't stand it. I think it needs to be changed. I think free for all. Coach. People are screaming from the stands, you suck. You think Novak says, yeah, I agree, I do suck. So let me try harder. I mean, it's fun. It's freaking, come on. I don't want to have I don't like vanilla ice cream every day. Give me some sprinkles, some chocolate chips, some
Don't let Joe Biden hear you say that, okay? Vanilla every day.
Go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. Hey, listen, with that said about not the Brandon, but with that said about coaching, every time I watch Fed Cup, the girl that gets coached the most always loses. So I think it's a better sport. I think it's a better sport when you're out there on your own. Look at Federer, 4 years, no coach. I 4 years at number one. I think I don't want someone in my ear. I think that's one thing I love about the game. It's mano a mano, and it's, you use your own wits. So coaching, I don't care one way or another, but I don't think it's going to help that much. It seems like the Fed Cup, the girl always loses.
That's why I say it's a spectacle. Let people do their thing. If a coach wants to be, if he wants to be a bee in his bonnet of this kid or this player, let him be. I mean, everybody coaches. I mean, Muratoglu was right, but it is the stupidest rule. I know Federer likes to say that, listen, I am the Godfather from Switzerland. And I think it's the purest game in the world. And we must adhere to the, the von Krams of the world. So, come on. I mean, I think we are in 2023. Tennis needs some new input. And I think this coaching thing, let people scream at people and talk and go for it. It's fun. I mean,
Davis Cup.
The fights between a coach and the player. And the player flips him off and tells him to shut the hell up. I love that.
True.
It's
I do
business.
too.
Come on.
I do too. Yep. Well, always a bright spot. Always a bright spot.
That's right.
Hey,
well, Jack,
Johan, good luck. Good luck this week in your tournament. I'm sure you and I'll be texting to find out how she does.
Next time, make your screen bigger so I can play tic-tac-toe on your shirt.
There you go. Thanks. Thanks. Cheers, my friend.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Johan. Good to see you, bro. See you soon.
Take care, guys.
See you, yo. Take care, buddy.
Take care.
That was fun, huh?
What a guy. What a great guy.
Bro, it's
That was
crazy how,
fun.
like all tennis players have a good memory. Like, that was ridiculous. He was like, I hit a half volley cross court and they
Yeah.
couldn't handle it in the 1988 fourth round. That was crazy, man. That's great, dude. He's great.
Now, he is great. He's great. And I love the fact that he loves to come join us on the Real Spin. It's great. I think that's what makes us number one in primetime comedy tennis, you know?
Bro, I mean, besides the fact you blew up my spot for my pretty good question, I feel like that went great. I feel like that was phenomenal.
Well, let's get to the D block. We're going to have very little time, but let's do what we can. Okay, folks? This AO tournament, we've seen this before. We've seen this before in 1974 when the women's game had more in store. Now the points on the men's side seem so much longer because of their stride. And that's what I was talking about earlier. It's and I want to just touch on this. We just have a few minutes, so we'll each talk really 1 minute each. But it seems to me that things are changing. For the longest time back in the 70s, my dad used to always say to me, son, I prefer to watch the women. Points are, you see a real construct of points and it's very interesting. And it wasn't just Stan Smith serve volley, John Newcomb serve volley, and very short points. My dad found it very boring. I was a boy. I just wanted to see the boys play, but the men play. But I find today, and we touched on it just a little in the B block, which is the game is really changing. The women's points are so short now. And the men's points, like you said, Teddy, they're ridiculously long. I mean, you literally have to hit 5 winners in a point to win the point now. I mean, a guy like Alcaraz, he can cover the court, I would dare say, better than Nadal. And Nadal is ridiculous. So I guess I'd like to just go around the horn one time real quickly. And on that point, AJ, you have anything to say about that, men's or women's game?
I do agree that points are longer, or at least the memorable ones. I can't forget the 28-shot rally a couple nights ago, or the 36-shot rally between Rafa and Djokovic. However, if you really boil it down, there are more between 5 and 8 shots, and even more between 0 and 4. So I understand those stats, but for me, it's so memorable when there is a long one with lead changes within the point. And I'm speaking of men's tennis. There's so much variety. There is so much, like you said, stride. They're covering the court so well. And that's why we're seeing some more of these ultra long, lung busting kind of points. My favorite thing to watch, of course, is toward the end of a lung busting point. I shouldn't say nobody, but almost never do you see a bailout now. You still see, I'm going to come back in, or that son of a bitch is going to come in, I'm going to dip, then pass, or I'm going to chip, then lob, or something. So that's what I love about it. But the net points is a problem I have. I know Johan didn't necessarily get to talk about the Tsitsipas and Djokovic match. Tsitsipas had engaged in long points. Do you know the stat? Points that were more than 9 shots, they were about even. I think Djokovic only won 1 more. Points that were short, Djokovic won several more. Tsitsipas came to the net 17 times, won 12 of them. Can you imagine? That's a pretty good percentage. That's 71% for folks scoring at home.
I found that on both the men's and women. I found that on both the men's and women's side. Seemed like everyone was about 70% and up who came to net.
Mm-hmm. What it points toward is perhaps what you said, Jack, times 2. I think the shift you're seeing will happen even more, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. So that's my piece on the shift.
Yeah, Teddy?
I think, Johan talked about it a little bit, and then also AJ asked his question to Johan. I think that fitness is just on another level now. You see everybody can hit the ball. We're seeing everybody slowly starting to be able to hit every shot in the book. When you think about a guy like even Kachanov, you saw him do very well in this tournament. People didn't really expect that from him, but everybody can hit every shot, and it's fitness out there, man. Fitness is really becoming bigger and bigger each year. See, who can get the little increase year over year. Like even LeBron, it came out 5 years ago that he spends $1 million on his body. So I think that athletes in general are seeing that you really have to invest in your body in every sport.
Will, you want to comment on the doubles? You find You find the athleticism even better on the doubles too?
Well, no, I was actually just going to comment on the singles and just the topic overall. Yeah, I think what AJ said is correct. So the important thing here is the memorable points, because I just looked up the stats, and it looks like the men's rally length was 4.4, the women's rally length was 4.2, so it was slightly shorter, but by 0.2 of a point or of a ball. So I think we're really talking about a lot of those memorable points, and that's what you have seen a lot on the men's side. I think it was the Tsitsipas Khachanov match.
Yeah, great match.
Where Khachanov had like 3 or 4 overheads in one of those like massive points, and Tsitsipas somehow stays in it. And you see that momentum shift from like defense to offense to defense to offense within some of those like 17 or 24 shot rallies that make the highlight reel. And those are the ones we remember.
That's what I meant too.
I think because the guys are, like if you took Djokovic against Iga in like 100-yard dash, like Djokovic is going to win, right? So because they're just literally faster, they're able to get to some of these balls that create these memorable points. As far as the rally length, I think, I don't know if it's changing a whole lot. I think you're seeing at the top of the women's game a lot more. That rally length is coming down because they are getting a little better at serving. Like Rybakina was serving really well through to the finals, right? So you get a lot of one shot rallies, which is just an ace or a missed return. And historically, that's been much more heavily weighted to the men's side. As some of the women improve their serve and you get more of those missed returns, I think it's going to bring that average rally length down. But this could be a really long topic and probably a show of its own. So
yeah. I mean, I agree, but I'm very surprised it's only 4 balls, because seems like, especially when you watched Djokovic Nadal match, it just seemed like the points would go on forever, every point, and it doesn't seem like just once in a while. But I guess
that's the thing, you just don't remember the missed returns. It just like moves on to the next one, and that counts, right? Like that brings that average down so much. So, well,
I will say one thing in closing. I think the biggest shout out has to go, in my opinion, to Novak. Novak won this tournament so easily. I never thought he played his A game personally. I watch a lot of Novak. These guys didn't bring out his best. I think he played well, but not his best. I've seen him play better against Federer, like in the 5-setter in Wimbledon. And I've seen him play better against Nadal. He didn't have to play better. So I think he's in for at least 23, 24, 25 slams. I would say at least 1 or 2 more this year, a couple, 3 more next year, because I think he's in a class by himself right now. He's more disciplined than the other guys. His serve might not be bigger than some of the guys, but he gets more first serves in. He places it. He disguises his shots well. He was just faking Tsitsipas out of his shorts. And like I said, I didn't think he played his best game.
If I may add, he's also the greatest of all time in tiebreakers. And I used to think that of McEnroe when I was a kid. There was a time that Roger was winning some crazy number, like 12 out of the past 15 third set breakers, Roger won in a stretch there in the mid 2000s, or 2010, somewhere in there. So his performance in that third set tiebreak the other night, racing up to a 5-0 lead, getting a little tight, but still winning 7-5. His performance in coming back and taking that second set breaker. I realized the match wasn't close, but there were moments that it could have gone 4, and that would have proven our friend Jack Broudy wrong. But and I was
ain't gonna happen, brother. It ain't gonna happen.
I was rooting for a 4 or 5 setter. I mean, we all kind of knew the outcome, but
hey, fellas,
and
go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, salute to your closing assessment about hats off to Novak.
Okay, well, bring me to Vegas next time you're ready to go, because I'm pretty good at this. So
You know who I want to bring to Vegas? Will and Teddy mentioned Karen Khachanov I want Teddy to grow a 3-week beard and see if he looks like Hachanov. I have a
Bro,
feeling.
I've gotten that before, dude. I've gotten that.
You have.
It kind of does, yeah.
Hey,
Teddy, I don't
fellas.
know if you're. Yeah, there is the eyebrows.
Hey,
Yeah.
fellas,
That's
I got a time crunch. Tucker Carlson comes on right now, so I've got to get off because I'm cutting into his airtime. But
Dude, we could go all night. Sorry.
But let me ask you some shameless plugs here, Teddy. What dates are you playing? Tell us some dates you're playing in the next couple
Jack,
weeks.
we got the Ted Jones Comedy Show February 8th, 8 p.m. Check out Ted Jones World. Get those tickets, guys, if you're in New York City. The show's going to be freaking lit. The lineup's lit. Get to our show. Thank you.
AJ, any shameless plugs?
Sure, 3 of them. February 17th, stand-up comedy, Franconia Brewery in Dallas, Texas. That's 1. 2, At the Net Podcast on Instagram or Facebook. And 3, I do some day job work for Karitra, industry standard, industry leader in software solutions for sports and education, particularly tennis. So look that up if you are a tennis geek.
Okay, Will, I know you got some comedy acts coming. Where are you playing?
No Comedies X. I'm actually on a hiatus from
Shocker.
that right now. Yeah, I've got my website, thetennistribe.com. You can learn a lot about doubles strategy. Podcast is the Doubles Only Tennis Podcast. So yeah, you can find everything there.
You're a partner at Broudy Tennis. I know that. I've always have been. So, hey, thanks to tonight's guests, AJ Chambria, Will Boucek, Ted World Jones. And thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. I love you, Tennis World, and y'all have a great week. See you next
You're the
week.
man, Jack. Thanks a lot.
And, one
Thanks,
last plug. Go my shameless plug. Go visit BroudyTennis.com and see what's happening. Like us on Facebook. Yeah, I guess I had too much beer tonight, Teddy. And like us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And y'all have a great night. And I love you, Tennis World.